Hi there. I'm going to talk about, let's just talk about, a world that could be possible if we didn't really live in capitalism. Because, nuclear energy, for example, there's a difference between fission reactors and fusion reactors. In a fusion reactor, you're basically making a miniature sun, right? So there actually isn't any nuclear waste as a byproduct. So you don't actually have to worry about these large pressure cookers with these steel rods being ejected from these concrete tombs and a bunch of nuclear waste being dumped out into the environment. When you create a miniature sun, that miniature sun is self-sustaining, so it doesn't output any nuclear waste. Um, but, as of current technology, they haven't been able to stabilize these fusion reactors into a miniature sun. Until very recently, they've had a lot of breakthroughs. There was, I believe, one Chinese fusion reactor where they were like shooting a bunch of small radioactive material, like almost like a water gun, onto a pellet or onto a final piece that would self-sustain itself. I don't know. But why am I talking about this? Because, we know that, if nuclear fusion reactors became viable and if they were mass producible with little risk, the problem would be is that, again, they'd become privatized. Now, why is this an issue? Right? Um, this is an issue because in a fusion reactor, if we are creating a miniature sun, we're outputting more energy in like 1 second, than an entire 1,000 years could generate, right? And if we had batteries, we could store this we could store this energy, right? But imagine what you could do with 1,000 years of energy in 1 day, right? Be a lot of energy. It might be enough energy to fuel spaceships so that we could travel to other stars. That's how much energy we would have. And in fact, we'd have so much energy, we wouldn't have to worry about getting around, right? We wouldn't have to worry about bullet trains or public transit. We'd have all the energy requirement needs we could possibly have to do and build anything, right? Now, in a capitalist society, that would never work, right? They would obviously ration out this energy just to make a profit, right? So while we could use this energy from nuclear fusion reactors to stop poverty, to stop war globally, to solve all our problems, all of our material problems and energy, capitalism would never allow for it, right? Capitalism would never allow for it. Sorry, very stressed right now. Another thing to think about, like what kind of radical different world we could live in. Imagine this substance called graphene, right? Or graphite, sorry. Graphite is in your lead pencil. Graphene is actually a kind of like a hectagon shape of graphite. And what's interesting about this molecule is it can actually take a lot of energy, right? You can send a lot of energy across it, a lot of electricity. So in a world with no electrical resistance, right, with a substance like graphene, it could basically make our computers foldable, like clothing, right? You could fold your computer into your pocket and it wouldn't catch fire, right? And that's useful for a couple of reasons, right? For one, you could, have a massive amount of energy in a very tiny computer, right? But another byproduct of that is that you would be able to harness electromagnetism in the same capacity we harness electricity through cables. So I want you to imagine an economy, right? Like when Olivia Chow made that property tax, and then it forced all these developers to start building buildings, right? all across the city. Um, a lot of that rapid change wasn't seen as possible by a lot of well, not by developers, but by a lot of businesses and a lot of, a lot of people here in Toronto, the community, didn't think housing or apartment buildings could be built that fast. Well, they were proven wrong, right, in that instance. But I want you to imagine a society where we could use electromagnetism to kind of snap buildings almost like a chain link, just just snap buildings into place, right? Because it's electromagnetic. Imagine a city where everything is convertible, everything is automable, it's reconfigurable. Imagine entire city skylines just unfolding into new structures. So if, a corporate building needed to reconfigure itself and become a hospital, it could do so very easily. It could install entire generators into that hospital if it needed emergency power, right? Like that would be possible with no electrical resistance. But the economy, what would happen to the economy, right? That's the question. Well, and in the economy, there'd be no speculative finance. It would throw the entire, like all this speculative finance that's necessary to generate fiat currency, which is basically value that is not calculable until tomorrow, right? It's the reason why stocks, in the stock market, interest rates rise and crash, right? There's a speculative finance component to architecture, to buildings, to homes, right? To just buildings in general. There's speculative finance. It would throw the whole economy out of whack if an entire city was reconfigurable and automable, right? Like there, capitalism would never allow for it, or maybe we'd have to adapt to a shittier version of capitalism that is controlling something that would be so obviously efficient, right? It's just when we think about the world we want to live in, these fucking politicians on C-SPAN, they're not talking about science. Doug Ford he doesn't have a high school education, as far as I was told, right? I could be wrong, but a lot of these politicians are not talking about science on C-SPAN. They're talking politics. So they don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about, right? That's the hard part. It's just fucked. Like, this is why our whole country is fucked. This is why capitalism just isn't working globally. Because it's not acting, it's not really solving for real solutions that would actually save humanity and all of our problems: war, poverty, disease, right? Like, there's dozens and dozens of medications, hundreds, thousands of medications on the shelf right now that can actually cure diseases that has plagued humanity for hundreds of years. It's on the shelf just sitting there, pretty much unaffordable to most of the public, right? We could eradicate most of human disease right now, but capitalist proprietary information is not allowing us to do that, right? These so-called innovators and entrepreneurs and these valuable pivotal figures of the community, they're not allowing us to save humanity. They're not, unequivocally. I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem.